The woman fell asleep in her car. When she woke up, she found herself being locked onto by a red laser dot. Carl instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Before her mind could process what was happening, danger had already arrived ahead of her realization. Before she could even react, the kidnappers smashed through the window and threw her to the ground. Faced with such a well-coordinated and professional act of violence, Carl had absolutely no chance to resist. She was then forcibly stuffed into a huge metal cage. No matter how much she cried and begged for mercy, no one paid any attention to her. She had no idea where she was, nor did she understand how things had ended up like this. But judging by the methods these people used, it was obvious that their motives were far more complicated than simply wanting money. Yet her instincts kept warning her that the real danger might only be beginning. When Carl woke up again, she discovered that they had been locked inside what appeared to be a dark basement. The main door had already been sealed shut. Through the window, she could see that they were inside an abandoned repair shop. Carl quickly woke up her companion Joe, who was beside her. Their other companion, Savin, was being held separately. This deliberate separation was clearly intended to prevent them from working together to escape. They had already realized that they were being held captive, but even now, they still had no idea what the kidnappers' true objective was. Soon the next morning arrived. Suddenly, hurried footsteps echoed from outside the metal door. Two vicious thugs walked in with murderous looks in their eyes. They spoke in a language that Carl could not understand. Waving their arms aggressively, they appeared ready to punish the captives. However, as Joe stepped forward to stop them, he was knocked to the ground before he could even reach them. At that critical moment, a man dressed like a doctor walked into the room. He immediately drove the two thugs out of the cell. He then began examining the injuries of the two captives. After determining that there was nothing seriously wrong, he turned off the lights and left. Terrified, Carl curled up in the corner. At that moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of despair. However, she had no idea that something far more horrifying was still waiting ahead. No one knew how much more time had passed. Suddenly, a strange ringing sound echoed through the hallway. Carl quickly moved to the wall and watched cautiously. She saw the doctor answer a phone call. He then loudly called for two of the thugs. The men forcibly entered the prisoner's cell. Then they dragged Joe away without hesitation. Carl cried out helplessly, but all she could do was watch her companion being taken away. Not long afterward, sounds came from outside the door again. Carl naively thought that Joe had returned. Instead, what appeared before her was his lifeless body. All of Joe's organs had been removed. Only then did Carl realize that they had been taken to an organ trafficking operation. As for what was going to happen to her, Carl could already imagine it all too clearly. Another day passed. Carl was awakened by loud noises coming from upstairs. She hurried to the window and looked outside. To her surprise, she spotted military vehicles that had arrived for repairs. It felt as though she had finally seen a lifeline. She immediately began shouting for help at the top of her lungs. However, just as someone was about to hear her cries, a dark figure silently appeared behind her.